Most people are not destroyed by some great catastrophe. There's no dramatic collapse, no single terrible moment they can point to and say, there, that is where it all went wrong. They are undone slowly by the hour spent scrolling instead of sleeping, by the meal eaten in front of the screen instead of stillness, by the book they meant to read, sitting untouched on the nightstand for 6 months, by the morning routine abandoned after 3 days, by the quiet voice inside them that said, today, tomorrow, when I feel I'm ready, when things are calmer, when I'm in a better place. They are dismantled by comfort, by convenience, by the 10,000 tiny surrenders that pile up so quietly they are almost invisible, until one day you look up and realize the person you are is not the person you intended to become, and the distance between those two people was not created in a single day. It was created in the accumulation of ordinary moments, chosen poorly over years. This is not a story about failure. This is a story about the slow erosion of a life, the equally slow, equally quiet, equally invisible process of rebuilding one small choice at a time. There is a word in Japanese that has no real equivalent in English. It is written in 2 characters. First means change. The second means good. Together they mean something that Western culture struggles to hold. The idea that transformation is not a destination, but a direction. Not an event, but a practice. Not something you arrive at, but something you embody, one small, unglamorous, repeated action at a time. The word is Kaizen, and it will change what you believe is possible. In the province of Mino, during the waning years of the Sengoku period, there lived a man whose name history has largely forgotten. He was not a great general. He was not a celebrated warrior. He held no lands, commanded no armies, bore no distinguished lineage. He was a doshin, a low-ranking samurai assigned the duties that higher-born men refused. He escorted prisoners. He guarded execution grounds. He stood at the edge of ceremonies where life and death intersected, performing the grim necessary functions that the powerful preferred not to witness. His days were brutal and repetitive. He woke before the sun. He cleaned and maintained his post. He practiced with his blade in solitude, not because he expected to be called to any great battle, but because he had been told to, and he did not know how to do things halfway. He was overlooked, dismissed, invisible to those above him in the way that useful, reliable men often become invisible. Their steadiness taken for granted, their presence assumed, their value noticed only in their absence. For years, nothing about him appeared to change, and yet, something was changing. It was not dramatic. It was not spoken of. He did not announce it, did not track it, did not reflect on it in terms of progress or ambition. He simply kept going. His posture, once rigid with unexamined tension, began to loosen into something quieter, something rooted. He had spent so many thousands of mornings holding still in the cold that stillness had become less an effort and more a nature. His patience, once thin and easily frayed by the indignities of his position, had deepened through sheer exposure to waiting. He had stood at so many gates, in so much rain, watching so many small moments pass, that waiting was no longer something that happened to him. It was something he had learned to inhabit. His routines, sharpening his blade, cleaning his armor, training in the gray early light, had become so refined through repetition that they no longer required thought. They required only presence. And in that presence, something quiet had been built. Repetition had changed his body. Repetition had changed his mind. Repetition had, without his asking to, changed who he was. In his 40th year, a general whose estate he had guarded for a decade fell gravely ill. In the chaos of succession, in the scramble to consolidate power and reputation, the general's eldest son, young, uncertain, surrounded by men who wanted things from him, sought counsel from someone he trusted. He sought the man at the gate. Not because the Doshin had campaigned for influence, not because he had performed any spectacular act of loyalty or cunning, but because in 20 years of quiet observation, he had accumulated something rare: trust of people who had watched him be the same man, in the same way, on every ordinary morning. He had not changed by trying to change. He had changed by showing up. Greatness had not found him suddenly. It had grown in him so gradually that neither he nor anyone around him had noticed it arriving. This is how transformation actually works. Not in the grand gestures, not in the dramatic turning points, not in the moments we perform for others or announce to ourselves with ritual and resolution. In the mornings when no one is watching, in the small, repeated disciplines that feel like nothing at all, until they are everything. We live in the age of instant everything, instant information, instant food, instant contact with anyone on earth, instant entertainment in quantities our grandparents could not have imagined. More stories, more music, more stimulation available in one afternoon than an entire medieval life might have offered. And in this world of instant everything, we have quietly lost something essential. We have lost the ability to wait. More than that, we have lost the belief that waiting is even necessary. We have trained slowly and effectively to expect that transformation should be as fast as everything else. That if change is real, it should be visible immediately. That if effort is genuine, results should follow within days. When they don't, when the progress is invisible, when the body doesn't shift after a week, when the mind doesn't quiet after a single meditation, when the skill doesn't arrive after one evening of practice, we conclude that we have failed. that we are not the kind of person this works for, that the method is flawed, or the timing is wrong, or we simply don't have what it takes. And so we stop. We abandon the practice before it becomes a practice. We walk away from the discipline before it becomes discipline. We scroll through our phones instead, consuming the transformation of others, watching curated highlight reels of people who appear to have it figured out, people who seem effortlessly disciplined, effortlessly consistent, effortlessly whole. And in watching them, we feel both inspired and defeated at the same time. Inspired by what seems possible, defeated by how far we are from it. But what we do not see, what is never shown to us, is the 10,000 ordinary mornings it took to become that person. The mornings of no progress, the mornings of barely holding on, the mornings of showing up anyway, for no audience, with no reward, in the quiet before the rest of the world woke up. The modern world has convinced us that transformation is a product, something you purchase, adopt, or download, a program you begin with enthusiasm and abandon when the initial high fades. We have forgotten that transformation is a practice, and practice don't feel like transformation while you're doing them. They feel like ordinary days. They feel like routine. They feel like nothing at all. Until suddenly, and this is the strange, vertiginous moment that everyone who has ever committed to something long enough eventually reaches. You look back and cannot recognize the person you were before. I want to talk to you practically for a moment. Not philosophically, not poetically, just practically. Because Kaizen is not an abstraction. It is not a mood or an aesthetic or a concept to admire from a distance. It is a way of beginning, and it demands that we talk about beginnings honestly. Most people who want to change their relationship with their body, who want to run, to be strong, to feel capable in their own skin again, do not fail because they lack desire. They fail because they begin too violently. They have not exercised in months, perhaps years, and they decide with genuine feeling, with real conviction, that today is the day everything changes. And so they throw themselves at it, a brutal workout, an aggressive program, an intensity that their body and their mind are not yet prepared for. And the next morning, they can't move. Or they can move, but the pain is not the satisfying pain of effort. It is the discouraging pain of excess. And the morning after that, the motivation has drained away. And the morning after that, the routine has been abandoned. And the dream of transformation quietly deflates until the next time a wave of inspiration arrives. Kaizen says, begin smaller than your ego will allow. Walk for 15 minutes. Not as a lesser version of what you wish you were doing, as the exact, precise thing your body is ready for today. Walk for 15 minutes consistently, quietly, without needing it to be more than it is. And then walk again tomorrow. This is not settling. This is strategy. This is the ancient understanding that a foundation laid carefully can bear enormous weight. A foundation laid in haste bears none. If you cannot do a single push-up, and there is no shame in this, there's only honesty, then do not attempt push-ups. Instead, hold a plank. Lower yourself to the ground. Simply learn to bear your own weight. Let your body learn what being supported by its own strength feels like. That lesson alone, repeated every day, will begin to change you. If you cannot do a single pull-up, most people cannot, then approach the bar. Reach up, grip it with both hands, and simply hang there. Let your muscles learn the full weight of your body. Let your grip grow stronger simply through contact. In time, and the time will come faster than you expect, the hang will become a partial pull. That partial pull will become a full one. And eventually, what once felt impossible will feel like morning. Do you understand what is happening in these examples? The body is learning, but more importantly, the identity is learning. Each time you show up to walk your 15 minutes, something happens in you that has nothing to do with cardiovascular fitness. A small piece of your self-image shifts. You begin to become the person who shows up. You begin to be someone who follows through. You begin to trust yourself incrementally in the only way that trust is ever truly built, through repeated evidence. Showing up matters more than intensity. Consistency is more powerful than motivation. Tiny victories do not just build fitness, they rebuild identity. The man, the woman who holds a dead hang every morning for 3 weeks is not building muscle. They are building character. They are building proof, lived and felt in the body. And that is the kind of person who does difficult things before the rest of the world wakes up. And character, once built, does not wait to be applied. It bleeds onto everything. The discipline you develop in one area does not stay contained. It spreads. The patience you cultivate in the morning carries you through the afternoon. The consistency you practice with your body teaches your mind how to be consistent. The small act of honoring a commitment you made to yourself day after day without drama quietly dismantles the belief that you are someone who cannot change. There is a quality of patience that is different from waiting. Waiting is passive. Waiting is the experience of wanting something to be different from what it is and enduring the gap between the two. Waiting watches the clock. Waiting counts the days. Waiting is uncomfortable with the present moment. But the patience that Kaizen requires is not waiting. It is something older than that. It is the patience of a stone worker who strikes the same rock 10,000 times, knowing that 9,999 of those strikes appear to have done nothing at all. And that 10,000 will split the stone cleanly. Not because that final strike is more powerful, but because every one that came before it was necessary. Every practice session is that 10,000 strike. And also the first. Both at once. The Stoics understood something similar. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor, a general, a philosopher, did not write his meditations for publication. He wrote them for himself. Each morning, in the pre-dawn quiet, he examined his actions. He named his failures. He reinforced the disciplines he wished to embody. He was a man of extraordinary power and an equally extraordinary commitment to the ordinary daily practice of becoming better. And he did not do it because it felt good. He did it because he understood something that the world still struggles to accept. That freedom is not the absence of discipline. It is the product of it. We have been taught to believe that discipline is restriction, that it means saying no to the things we want. That is the opposite of freedom, a cage dressed as virtue. But those who have practiced it long enough, who have sat with it through all the resistance and the resentment in the mornings when every part of them wanted to stay in bed, know something different. Discipline creates freedom. The musician who practiced scales for 1,000 hours is free in a way that the musician who avoided them never will be. The runner who trained quietly through winter is free to run in spring in a way that cannot be borrowed or pretended. The person who has learned to sit with discomfort without fleeing from it is free from the tyranny of their own restlessness. And that is a freedom that no circumstance can take from them. Discipline does not cage you. It frees you from the cage you were already in. The cage of your own untrained impulses. Your unmanaged fears. Your undirected life. Kaizen knows this. Kaizen has always known this. The Japanese philosophy of continuous improvement is not about grinding. It is not about suffering. It is about the quiet accumulation of small acts of integrity. Moments when you choose the slightly harder, slightly more honest, slightly more disciplined path. And trusting that those choices, compounded over time, will make you into someone you are proud to be. Transformation is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not arrive with a ceremony or a dramatic shift in the weather. It arrives the way dawn arrives. So gradually you cannot see it moving, and then suddenly, undeniably, it is there, and everything is illuminated. Identity is built through habits, not through intentions, not through declarations, not through the moments when you feel motivated and everything seems possible, through the ordinary moments when you do the things you said you would do, simply because you said you would do it. I want you to imagine a version of yourself, not some idealized fantasy, but a real embodied human version who has practiced Kaizen for 2 years. Not perfectly, not without setbacks, not without the days when it fell apart, and the weeks when the discipline wavered, and the months when life intervened, and the whole thing needed to be rebuilt from scratch, smaller than before, but continuously in the direction of improvement, returning always to the practice. That version of you is not louder or more impressive or more dramatic than you are now. They are quieter, more settled. They do not need to perform their discipline for others because the discipline has become invisible, woven so deeply into who they are that it no longer requires effort or announcement. They wake earlier, not because they force themselves to, but because their body has learned to want the morning. They eat with more intention, not because they follow a rigid protocol, but because they have developed a relationship with their own physical experience that makes certain choices obvious. They carry less resentment, not because their circumstances are easier, but because they have developed the internal capacity to hold difficulty without being diminished by it. They are not the same person. And yet, every single step between who you are now and who they are is one you already know how to take. Each one is smaller than you fear. Each one is more ordinary than you imagine. One walk, one morning of showing up, one decision quietly made to be slightly more honest with yourself today than you were yesterday. This is not a process that requires extraordinary willpower. It requires ordinary willingness. The willingness to begin imperfectly, to continue uncertainly, to return without drama after every interruption. The samurai at the gate, the man history forgot, did not become someone worthy of trust by deciding to be trustworthy. He became it by being the same person, with the same steady hands and the same unhurried presence on every unremarkable morning for 20 years. His transformation was invisible until it was undeniable. So will yours be. We live in a world that tells us that if our change is not visible, it is not real. That if our progress cannot be measured and shared and validated, it does not count. That the only transformation worth having is the kind that can be announced. Kaizen offers a different story. It says, the most important changes happen in the dark, in the early mornings before anyone is watching, in the private moments of choosing discipline over comfort, in the invisible accumulation of tiny acts that never feel significant in the moment, but are, together, the substance of a life. It says, the person you are becoming is not built in the moments you are inspired. They are built in the moments you act without inspiration, simply because you decided once that this was who you intended to be, and you have not unmade that decision. You are already becoming someone. The only question is whether that becoming is guided by intention or abandoned to habit. Kaizen is nothing more than the choice to guide it, not with force, not with violence, not with the frantic energy of someone trying to outrun their own failures, but with the quiet, patient, daily practice of returning, always returning to the person you are choosing to become. The rain falls slowly over a stone. Stone does not resist. The rain does not hurry. And over years, over decades, the water shapes the stone into something that neither could have predicted. This is how you change. Not by force, by return. You will not feel the change happening. That is how you know it is real. The most profound transformations do not announce themselves. They accumulate in the silences between your ordinary actions. They live in the space between who you were this morning and who you will be tomorrow morning. A space so small, it is nearly invisible, and so important, it is everything. Begin with what you have. Begin where you are. Begin smaller than feels worth beginning. Walk 15 minutes. Hold that plank. Hang from that bar. Put down the phone and read one page. Sleep 8 hours and wake 10 minutes earlier. Sit in silence for 5 minutes before the noise of the day begins. Write one honest sentence about what you are afraid of. Then close the notebook and make breakfast. These are not the acts of a person becoming great. They are the acts of a person becoming themselves more fully, more consistently, more honestly than they were yesterday. And in time, in quiet time, in the invisible accumulation of 10,000 ordinary mornings, that is the same thing. One walk becomes a routine. One routine becomes a discipline. A discipline becomes character. Character becomes the shape of a life. And the shape of a life becomes destiny. If this resonated, if this hit, share it. If you really enjoyed it, subscribe, follow me everywhere. We're building something real here. Stay grounded, stay sharp, stay unshakable.